Hi, this is Lori from Wings as Eagles Ministries at the Dream Center. I just want to say hello to everyone today and let you know that the Dream Center has been full of children this week, and they've been having a great time. Lots of kids, a lot of fun, water slides. Now they're having an ice cream social before they get back on the bus. So I want to thank all the parents out there who entrust us to have their children and to just have fun with them, and we just thank you. Anyway, today we have Igor, who spoke last year around this time on alcoholism, and he's going to speak some teaching on alcoholism. And first, I just want to share a story of my life, because I know a lot of people suffer with this disease, and I was married for 13 years. Long time ago. My husband was an alcoholic, and but it was not a good thing. It was a horrible time. I had 3 children, and I was emotionally abused, physically abused. He committed adultery, so many things in my past that led me to Jesus. And I just want to share that with you today, just a little bit, to encourage a lot of the wives and a lot of the husbands out there who are dealing with a relative, a spouse, or someone who does have this disease, that there is hope. Because I had nothing, and I used to have to take my children to the church to get food, to get clothes, to just be able to live, until I had to pick myself up out of the mud and out of the dirt and say enough was enough. And I was raised a Catholic, and I was taught that I could not get divorced. And I thought, no, God has something better than being beat up every day of my life for 13 years. Because when I was pregnant, he kicked me in the stomach. I lost my first child, and then I had 3 healthy babies after that with him. And one day, I took off. He had taken me to Arizona and left me in the deserts of Arizona and took off with another woman, and he was on cocaine and alcohol. And I picked myself up, and I took my baby and I put him on my back, and I was pregnant, and I hitchhiked from Arizona all the way to my grandmother's house in Kansas City. And I know the pain of alcoholism. I know the life and the struggles of being beat up and being abused. And I just want to let everyone who's listening to me today to say that there is hope. And that Pastor Lori, sitting right here from the Dream Center, that's me, who has lived a life of sorrow and hardship and no money, no way to feed my children, no place to live. I remember sleeping in a Tulsa bus stop once at a bus station, and I could not feed my children. And I used to go to back then, they had those, they had where you could get, put money in and get crackers or whatever thing like that. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was in this bus station. It was pouring down rain in Tulsa, and I was hitchhiking from Mesa, Arizona, all the way to Kansas City. And I was kicking those machines just to try to get something to come out, and I kept kicking them and hitting them so that I could feed my children. And so I know that pain, and I know that struggle, and I know how God pulled me out of it. I know that one day my husband got so drunk that he put a crowbar through my arm. I have that scar still today. But I know what God can do, and He can turn all of that around, and He can use all of that pain to make lives better for other people. And so I just kept going until I lifted myself out of it, and I went back to school, and I left him, and I was able to support my children until God called me into full-time ministry to help others. And when I put all of my focus and all of my energy into helping other people, even though I couldn't even feed myself, but I was helping others, that's when my life changed. My life turned around, because I wanted to be a blessing to others through my experiences and through the things that I had been through. And so when the children come to the Dream Center, I just want to love on them. I know that they have lots of struggles, and I just want to be that person that they can look up to, and that person that they know that is on their level, that's suffered as much as everyone here is suffering. And I just want to say to Lloyd, thank you for letting me come up and share some of my story and telling you some of my past. And I open up the Dream Center for any of the women that want to come and just sit down and talk to me, or even any of the husbands and wives that want to come and talk to me, the grandmas, the grandpas. And let me pray with you, because I went through it. I've been there, I've struggled, but I came out on the other side to be able to help others. And I just want to say I'm here because I love you all, and I want to thank you for listening to me today. And I'm going to turn it over to Igor. God bless you.
Thank you, Lori, for that introduction. I think you mentioned last year we were here. We actually were speaking about depression, and gave some practical recommendations on how to deal with that. And I think alcoholism ties in heavily with that. I'm gonna go through some more some of the symptoms, some of the problems that people see when somebody or one of their relatives, friends, falls into alcoholism. And I will share some stories from my life as well throughout this talk. I'm hoping that you will find it informative, interesting, and it will help somebody who might have fallen into this pit, into this hole, into this trap. First of all, what I want to give out is Alcoholics Anonymous hotline. That's open 24/7, 212-870-3400. 212-870-3400. They deal mostly with alcohol addiction. Now, there's another helpline that's open 24/7 as well, and this one helps you find resources in your area. They see where you're calling from, and based on that, they find resources as needed. And this is 1-800-662-HELP or 4357. 1-800-662-HELP 4357. Another one that I want to give out as well is National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And this one is for suicide prevention. I think if you go into alcoholism deep enough, sooner or later suicide becomes an option. It seems like a viable option to you, and this one might help somebody who is struggling with that. It's 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. Now, what is alcoholism? And I know many people drink socially and they enjoy a drink. Now, my personal recommendation would be don't touch alcohol. It's like playing with fire, and any and all alcoholics that are out there, they did not start chugging alcohol right away. They started small, and this is how it always begins. It begins small. And so alcoholism is inability to control drinking due to both a physical and emotional dependence on alcohol. And if you look at people that live and you know somebody who might have an issue with it, I will list some of the symptoms, and later I will go over some symptoms as a questionnaire for you to answer for yourself. If you're listening to this program and you think you might have an alcohol problem, if you answer yes to any of those questions, you might have a problem, and I would advise you to seek help. So, do you drink alone or in secret? So this is some of the symptoms of alcoholism. Are you unable to limit how much alcohol you consume? Do you black out and are not unable to remember chunks of time after you drink? Do you have rituals that you do while drinking? And if somebody interrupts these rituals, you become irritated. So example one, you drink before, during, or after meal, or for example after work. Have you lost interest in hobbies that you previously enjoyed? Do you constantly have a feeling or an urge to drink? Do you feel irritable when drinking time approach? And especially if alcohol that you long for is not available. Do you hide alcohol? Do you store it in unlikely places? Do you gulp drinks down in order to feel good? Do you have problems with relationships, law, finances, or work that stem from drinking? Do you need more and more alcohol to feel its effects? Do you experience nausea, sweating, or shaking when you're not drinking? So those are some of the symptoms, but I will redo them from a different sheet here that I have, and this is going to be like a little test that you can answer for yourself, especially for teens if you're listening to me, because the younger you start, the more terrible the problem becomes. It doesn't get any better. And what happens is you think that the next bottle will satisfy you, or the next drink, it will be it. But it doesn't go that way. You drink and then you suddenly realize, hey, I need more, and I need more, and I need more. And it continues throughout your life. And it's something horrible and terrible that if you fall into it, it's very difficult to get out of. So here is the 12 questions that I want to ask. If you answer yes to any of these questions, please seek help. Please seek help. Number 1, do you drink to relax when you have problems? Number 2, do you drink when you get irritated, frustrated, unhappy, or angry? Number 3, do you prefer to drink alone? Number 4, are your grades slipping? Are you having trouble at work? Number 5, do you ever try to stop drinking or drink less and fail? Number 6, do you take drinks in the morning? Number 7, do you guzzle your drinks? Number 8, have you ever forgotten what happened when you were drinking? Number 9, do you ever lie about your drinking? Number 10, do you ever get in trouble when you drink? Number 11, do you get drunk when you drink even though you didn't want to? And number 12, do you think it's cool to be able to drink a lot? If you answer yes to any of these questions, or multiple of these questions, most likely you have a problem and you seriously should consider seeking help. I know some people who try to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. Unfortunately, that's very rarely successful and almost never. You need some professional help to help you get away from this problem, and it might require a serious amount of work in order to help you out. Now, let's look at some key reasons for alcohol abuse, right? So, many people look at alcoholics, and especially if they knew them before they became alcoholics, and they see the terrible changes in the lives of these people, and they ask themselves, what happened? Why did their life change? What drove them to drink? And so, a couple of things I will go over, and I'll make some comments regarding them. First of all, genes. There seems to be some scientific evidence that your genetic makeup makes you more or less susceptible to alcohol abuse or other substances as well. This is including drugs. And there might have been a family history. It kind of passes along. Most likely, if the father or grandfather were alcoholic, the children and grandchildren will be alcoholics as well. It seems to pass on. So I think there's certain populations of people that are more susceptible, and I will be sharing some stories from my life because I grew up in Ukraine, and unfortunately, Ukrainians and Russians are really susceptible to alcohol abuse. And throughout my life, I saw a lot of horrible things that happen with alcohol, with my neighbors, with people that I knew. I still have an uncle that's unfortunately into that addiction. He's unable to get out of jail, and as soon as he gets out of jail, he's back in. It's a constant process. Even though the family has spent a lot of time trying to convince him to stop this, unfortunately it has failed and has been failing for many, many, many years. I remember when I was a little boy, we had a neighbor. And this neighbor next was our next door neighbor. We lived in a small village. We had approximately 400 people in the village. You knew everybody, and everybody knew you. And he was a really nice guy when he was not drunk. When he drank, he became completely different person. And one time he came and he spoke with my mother, and he told her, "Tony, if I'm drunk and I say something really mean to you, please ignore that. That's not me. That's alcohol speaking. I feel really bad about it, but I cannot control myself." I remember we walked into his barn, me and his grandson. We were playing, and I think I was maybe like 6 or 7 at that time. And they had multiple cows and horses. And so he came in and he fell into horse poop, and he couldn't gear up because he was so drunk. And so he tried, and he was covered from head to toe in horse poop and cow poop, and it was slimy, and he looked terrible. And so we went and called his son, my friend's father. He dragged him outside, and he washed him with the hose outside because everything smelled, and he looked terrible. And it might be a funny story, but it was terrible because from a human being, he became almost an animal. This is what alcohol does to you. Unfortunately, his story is very sad. He was riding his horse, and he was drunk. He fell off his horse, and he broke his neck. And he died that way. A very sad way to go. I remember sitting at his funeral and looking at his coffin, him lying there, and I cried. It was very sad because he was such a nice guy, but he was not drunk. And for some reason, this has been many, many years ago. This was probably about almost 25 years ago. And to this day, I remember that day. I remember that coffin. It's kind of really sad. Okay, the first age of first alcoholic drink. Study suggests that people who start drinking alcohol before the age 15 more likely to develop alcoholism problems in the future. The earlier you start, the more likely chances are that you will develop problems. So please, if you drink socially, please make every attempt that your kids don't find your alcohol to try it. Talk with them, speak with them, make sure that they don't touch it. explain the dangers to them. And the more often you do something like that, the more likely that they will not touch alcohol. Easy access. There does appear to be a correlation between easy access to alcohol, especially cheap prices, and alcohol abuse, alcohol-related deaths. If you restrict or limit access to alcohol by, for example, raising taxes, maybe limiting the times when you can buy alcohol, or completely going dry, it does have a significant increase in limiting on how much alcoholism, deaths, and abuse there is. Stress. When people go through heavy stress, especially difficult situations in their life, they are more likely to drown the stress in alcohol. Why? Because suddenly you forget about your problems. You forget about your stress. You forget about your anxiety. And for a short period of time, you're happy. You're just clear. Everything's fine. But it's no longer... But that temporary solution does not take away your underlying problems. Because once you get sober again, the problems are still there, and most likely more problems because you did something stupid while you were drunk. Peer drinking, that's a big deal. People's friends who drink are more likely to drink as well. So the company you keep will determine much of who you are as well. If you keep company with people who don't like drinking, most likely you're not going to drink as well. But if your friends frequent the bar and they are always drunk, most likely you're going to be drunk as well. So be careful with the company that you keep. Low self-esteem. If you have no goal in life, if you have no purpose in life, if your life is empty and blank, if your self-esteem is down, and an empty and blank life will produce a low self-esteem. A lack of goal will produce a low self-esteem. It will drive you into alcoholism or drugs as well. And so it's kind of, again, a quick solution to a long-term problem. It doesn't solve anything, but it makes you feel good for a short period of time. People suffering in depression frequently find some kind of relief in a bottle. Now, again, it doesn't take the depression away. It just makes you forget the depression for a short period of time. And we spoke about depression last year. If you're depressed, if you're suicidal, seek help. Please seek help. Please don't delay in seeking help. Don't try to fix your depression with alcohol or drugs. That's not gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna produce anything. It's just gonna deepen your issue and your problem. Media and advertising. A lot of time when we look at movies, at TV, we see alcohol as being the cool thing, the in thing, something to be praised, something to be looked at, something that will elevate you in the eyes of others, but it's not so. If you're lying there in a pile of horse poop, how does that elevate you? It doesn't elevate you at all. To this day, I remember him covered in that, and he smelled terrible, to be honest, and looked terrible, but it does not elevate him as a person. It will not elevate you as a person. Family. Unstable family situations, particularly with missing father, contributes heavily to development of an alcoholic. That is a big deal. Broken family will drive kids into alcoholism. broken families will drive kids into alcoholism. It's kind of sad, but it's very, very, very true. It's a very true thing. And so, if you have a family that is broken, and it's not broken because of you grew up in a broken family, seek a mother figure or a father figure somewhere on the side. That's my suggestion for you. Somebody who is a respectable elder, somebody who is somebody who you can talk to, somebody who you can share your problems with, somebody who can help you. It's a big deal. I remember a couple houses down from our house where we lived on the street, there was a very rich family that lived there. It was a mother, father, and 2 sons. They had 2 elder sons. And this family was the richest family, I want to say, in our town. They were very wealthy. They had a lot of land. They had all sorts of farm equipment. They had multiple horses. They were the richest farmers on the block, you can say. They had a nice house. And unfortunately, their father and then the 2 sons started drinking all at the same time. They sold everything. They sold all of their farm equipment, all of their horses. They had a very beautiful wrought iron fence around their property. They took down the fence and they sold the fence. They sold all the furniture in the house. The house was almost completely barren except like 2 beds or 3 beds, wherever they had, just to fuel their alcohol addiction. I remember their mother would run away from their house because they would come drunk and beat her. She would sleep on our couch. And she would be so scared. And you would see where they would beat her. You see the wounds on her face and her hands. And it was terrible. And I remember as a little boy looking at that, like, who is this random grandma that comes to our house to sleep on our couch? And she would cry about it to my parents. And I thought about that later when I grew up. And I was like, these people were so rich. And yet alcohol completely wiped them out. The entire family. Never, ever, ever underestimate what alcohol can do to you. Never, ever underestimate. It will come in as a small thing, but it has tendency to grow into something horrible and terrible. And it will tear your family apart. It will destroy your family, and not only mentally, it will physically destroy everything that you have built. Everything. And nothing will remain. So, don't let this monster into your house. It might knock on your door. It's something small. It's something very insignificant. It's a drink here and a drink here. But it slowly grows. And it grows into something terrible. And another thing that I want to mention is a spiritual issue. We all seek for something. We all look for something. There is an emptiness in our heart that we try to fulfill. And many people seek for different things. Some people think it will be fame. Some people think it will be money. Some people think it will be drugs. Some people think it will be alcohol. Unfortunately, alcohol is a big deal these days. And they try to fill this spiritual emptiness with alcohol. But unfortunately, it's eternal. And no matter how much alcohol you pour down that eternal drain, it will never fill it up. It will always be empty. It will always be dry. Because only God can fill something like that. He's eternal. He can fill the eternity in human heart. So be careful with that. If you try to solve your spiritual issues with alcohol, you will never, ever, ever succeed. I will advise anybody and everybody, So how would you deal with something like this? So you see a problem, or you notice a problem in somebody else, you have issues. First, my recommendation would be don't touch it. If you never started before to drink, please don't start. Don't touch it. It's gonna destroy your life. It's completely gonna wipe out your life. Like, for real. Lori, maybe you have something to say, or you're good?
I think the main thing is that you lose your family, you lose your children. In my experience, like with my first husband was so ill with the disease of alcoholism, and it turned his children away. It turned me away. He couldn't keep a job. He couldn't hold down a job, and so there was so many. It was like a domino effect. It just touches everything in your life.
Yeah, I think it's like it starts small and then it goes collapses. I'll share another story with you. I went to school in Ukraine, and we had a principal. So we had a small group, and the principal was a very well-respected individual in our village, and even among other villages that neighbored us. He was a smart man, well-respected. He played multiple musical instruments, and even when we did some music classes, he taught us some of the stuff. And unfortunately, he started to drink a little bit here, a little bit there, and more, and more, and more. And from being a very well-respected individual, a very well-respected individual, a very smart man, he started going downhill. He got fired from his principal job because he couldn't perform the duties of a principal anymore. He got another job. He got fired from that. He ended up on the street. He started sleeping on the street. I think he lost his house. He became an alcoholic. And then it was 2006. My grandpa was out there, and he was walking, and he sees somebody sleeping on the street in an old coat and all ragged and dirty, and he came and he tried to wake this person up. And so when he woke up, he looked, and this was my principal, Bogdan Andreevich, and he was completely drunk, disheveled, terrible, homeless man. He died on the street a couple years later. Broken man. From being a highly respected individual, being a very highly respected individual, a smart man, somebody I actually really admired and liked. He died as an alcoholic on the street. I think he might have frozen to death, if I remember correctly. And it was, thinking about that, it's so terrible. I know recently I was speaking to my mom, and one of her cousins also died from alcohol. He was only in his early 40s. And she was like, so many people that I know died in their early age just because they started to look into the bottle. My thing is, I'm just giving you some real life examples that I know of, that I have seen personally, to show you that yes, you might be wealthy, you might be respected, you might have all sorts of things, but once you get into the bottle, it will destroy you 100%. It will just wipe you out completely. And God forbid that you die on the street as an alcoholic because you froze to that, like my former principal. I don't want that fate to be repeated for anybody. It's a terrible fate. It's truly terrible fate. Or you die in a car crash because you were driving drunk. It was 2002. You're driving. I live in Chicago. And this was in the evening. And you see my dad saw a car coming towards us on a really high rate of speed. And a good thing he stopped. And the guy rams right into us, front end. If my dad started turning like he was trying to, he would have hit us broadside and completely killed all of us. But the car was completely totaled. It was a miracle that we came out of it alive. And this guy comes out and he's so drunk, and he starts blaming my father for the accident, even though he was completely driving off lane and the police came and arrested him. Turns out this was his third DUI. I don't know what happened later. I know they went to court and everything to get the money back for the car. But it was a terrible situation. He could have killed us just because he was drinking. So please don't touch alcohol. It will 100% destroy you. Prevention is the best cure, I think. I mentioned those factors: the genes, the age of a first alcoholic drink, easy access, stress, peer drinking, low self-esteem, depression, media and advertising, family, and spiritual. There's not much you can do about genes. But you can restrict alcohol to your kids, as well as make sure they know and are aware that alcoholism will destroy them, and keep telling them this, keep repeating that to them. Bring out examples and constantly bring up to them, hey kids, this is what will happen if you drink. Also, a good example would be your own personal life. If you tell them not to drink and you're drunk on a couch, what are they gonna do? They will not listen to you. They will do what you give them as an example. There's a good example is if you're gonna tell them and do the same thing, they will listen to you. Easy access to alcohol. Restrict as much access to alcohol as possible. If you have stress, seek some kind of stress relief. Figure out where your stress is coming from. Get rid of it as fast as possible. Don't go into alcohol as a stress reliever. Peer drinking. Find a company that doesn't drink for fun. Find a company that's gonna pull you away from drinking, not push you towards drinking. If you have low self-esteem, eliminate that. Find a purpose. Find a goal. I don't know. Start a hobby. Do something with your life with which you can kind of look forward to something. Don't lead a vacuous and empty life. Kind of big deal. Depression. If you're depressed, look for help. Seek help. Seek help. Figure out where your depression is coming from. Figure out the root of your depression and eliminate that. Don't seek relief from your depression in alcohol. If you watch a lot of media that promotes alcohol as being cool, as being in, as being trendy or sexy or something else, try your best to get away from that. Stop watching that show. Stop looking at those pictures. I don't know, just put that away from your head so you don't feed your head with something like this. If you have an unstable family situation, seek help. Find somebody, find an elder. If you're a lady, find an older lady who's reputable, somebody who has lived life to talk to. If you're a man, find a elder within a community that you can talk to. Seek somebody with authority. You know these people. They are out there. Ask them for help. Hey, please help me. I have a problem with this. My family is falling apart. seek counseling, work on that. And spiritual, if you feel emptiness within your heart, we all know that there's something bigger than us. Cry out to God. He will answer. He will be there for you. He will fill out the emptiness that's within your heart, and you will not have to drown that emptiness with alcohol. So the best thing to do is to eliminate as many of these factors from your life as possible, and the lives of people that surround you, especially your children. If you're already in alcohol and you recognize yourself and you see yourself there, what can you do? Well, recognizing the problem and admitting it is a first step. But if you admit the problem and you don't do anything about it, you failed already. Admit it, and every day start making steps towards the solution of that problem. So you recognize, hey, there's a problem with me and alcohol. Well, first day would probably be go and smash all bottles of alcohol. Get rid of it. Then get rid of any and all friends that drive you to drink. Stop going to that store where you buy alcohol. Start looking on how you can change. You need to want to be changed. If you love alcohol, you're not gonna get changed. Why? Because it's gonna control you. But as soon as you have a desire to change, and it grows within you, it doesn't dissipate, but it grows within you, becomes bigger and bigger, you will change. You're able to break that addiction. You will be able to break it. But at the same time, seek professional help as well. Look for people who can help you, who can direct you properly towards help. So go to a rehab. I would suggest an 18-month rehab, a minimum 18-month rehab for your addiction. It takes a long time to break it. Truly long time. A lot of hard work. I think a good quality rehab would do wonders with your life, especially if it's combined with a desire to change. If it's combined with a desire to actually become different. If you stand there and firmly say, hey, I'm not gonna allow this drink to control my life. And when you do something like that and you stand firm, you will be able to break that addiction. I would suggest that all of you, everybody, work together to help the people in need. When you see those people, please don't ignore them. Please don't throw them to the curb. But do your best to assist them. It's difficult for them to do anything by themselves. Together we are strong. When we are together, then we could do amazing things. But if we leave people to struggle alone, if we leave people to just be on their own, they will be defeated. It's 100%. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of time. It's a question of just when. They will end up on the street. They will die. And it's going to be very, very sad and unfortunate. I think I will have a few more comments for closing. Maybe, Lori, would you like to add something to what I have said?
Thank you, Igor, for all of that wealth of information. I just want to say to anyone out there who is hurting, that can hear my voice, is that you're not alone, and that you do have people that are praying for you. And I pray every day for those who suffer, especially through the domestic violence and the things that alcohol leads to. And if Igor will be, are you open for any phone calls or anything right now? If you'd like to call and ask a question at KILI, that would be good as well. But know that that you need to seek help, and life can change.
I guess I could take a question or two if our listeners have any questions. But what I want to say is, as Lori mentioned before, if you really need help and you don't know who to turn to, and you're struggling and you realize that you're struggling and you want help and you don't know where to find help, please call Dream Center, talk to Lori. If you really want to rehab, I will be able to place you into a rehab. I've worked with two rehabs, and I know the people there, and they will be willing to take you in. That's my offer to you. But truly, you have to have a desire to change. If you don't have a desire to change, you will not be able to go through the 18-month program. It's a real deal. They will work with you. They will help you out as much as they could possibly can. Now, I think I will mention one thing. When Jesus walked on earth, he said, "Know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." Only the truth can set a person who is in addiction free. It doesn't matter what kind of addiction. There's many different addictions, all sorts of addictions. But truth is powerful enough to set a person free, to break an addiction, to break the problem. So seek for the truth. When you seek for it, you will find it. Truth is out there. It's there. It's available. Truth is in Jesus Christ, and He's the only true way to life. I'm going to repeat the hotlines that I gave out before as well. Alcoholics Anonymous, 212-870-3400. 212-870-3400. Then the helpline that helps you find locations near you for alcohol addiction counseling and such, 1-800-662-HELP, 1-800-662-HELP, or 4357 HELP is 4357. And then National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This is if you have thoughts of suicide, if your depression is driving you to seriously consider suicide as an option. Please stop. Please find somebody. Please call them. Please talk to somebody. It's kind of important. We don't want you dead. Nobody wants you dead. You're going to inflict so much pain to your family, to your friends, to your loved ones. You have no idea how much pain you will inflict. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Seek help. 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. I want to encourage everybody. I think it's so important, especially these days, when we see so much death. When we see so much, like unfortunately, I was driving back here to KILI, I saw a couple signs in memory of this person, that passed away on the road, and a lot of them due to alcohol. We don't want young people dying young. We don't want young people dying drunk. We don't want anybody dying drunk. We want you to live. We want you to have happiness. We want you to be excited with life, to have a purpose, to have a meaning, to be changed in the world that you want to see. That's my desire. I truly, truly hope that somebody could take some of the information discussed here and could be assisted in their problem. That it would prevent future alcoholic deaths. It would prevent broken families. It would prevent destroyed lives. I want you to be happy in your life. I want you to have a future. I want you to have life and life abundant. And I think on that I will end. Thank you, Lord.